JV football uniforms as an experiment to see sort of how we apply the steps of the scientific method to an actual example. Here's another example. And we'll read about this one first. So, Zing candy bars. A candy manufacturer developed a new candy called Zing. The developers could not decide on a color for the new wrapper. So they decided to conduct a test to see which color the buyers liked the best. So they made 8,000 candy bars. They were all 100 grams of candy. And they wrapped 2,000 in red wrappers, 2,000 in blue wrappers, 2,000 in green, 2,000 in brown. All of the bars were sold for 75 cents. They all had the same shape and were placed in the same store display. And at the right is the data table for the result of the test sale. So the color of the wrapper and how many of that color sold. Okay, so is this an experiment? Yes. Let's think about this experiment. And let's think about those variables. Independent variable. Okay. So when I ask you this question, in this experiment, what is the independent variable? Before you give me an answer to this exact question, when I ask you that, how do you answer? Like, what is the independent variable?
The thing that's being tested.
The thing being tested. Remember, the I looks like what number?
1.
1. What's the one thing that's different in your groups? So in this experiment that we just read about, what was the independent variable? Independent variable. Tom?
The candy wrappers.
What exactly about it?
The color.
Yes. The difference between the groups. The one thing that was different was the color of the wrapper.
I was going to say, what is the color?
Okay. All right, so that was different in these groups. How about number 2? Dependent variable. Okay, so now, if I ask you about the dependent variable, before you give me the answer to this question, what is the dependent variable? How do you answer this question? Dana?
Like where they put the candy bars.
No, that would be another one. Kristen?
The thing that can be changed. It has to be the same.
No, because that's sort of what Dan was saying. Those are called variables held constant. The D in dependent variable, what does it go with? Farhan? No. Holly?
Data.
The data you collect. The D in dependent variable goes with the data you collect. So what data were they collecting that's going to help them come to a conclusion in this experiment? Israel?
How many color wrappers were sold?
How many were sold? Yes. That's the data they were looking at. That's the numbers they collected. That's going to help them make their conclusion. So yes, the number sold of each color. Good job.
Wait a minute.
Okay. So the independent variable is the one thing that's different. The dependent variable is the data you're collecting. Bless you. And then we have the variables held constant. And Kristen, these are the things that don't change, the things you try to keep the same. What are some examples in this experiment of some variables held constant? Olivia, give me one.
They were sold for 75 cents.
They all were sold for 75 cents. Bradley, did you have another one? No?
There's 2,000 for each one.
They made 2,000 each one. Nate?
There's 100 grams.
Each one weighed 100 grams. CJ? Where they were sold? Tanya?
How much they were sold?
How much they cost, you mean?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. All those things. You have another one in there?
They're the same shape.
Same shape as well. Good. Yeah, so those are all variables they held constant. They wanted all that stuff to be the same. They wanted only one thing to be different, the color of the wrapper. And they want to see how that affected their results. Good.
That was like the other one.
What's that?
That was the only one that, and the other, the flower one, the light was different.
Right,
And
so-
then everything else was the same.
That's a good point, and that's always, in a good experiment, you always want it like that, Tanya. You always want one thing different, but everything else the same. The thing that's different is the independent variable. The things that are all the same are the variables held constant. Okay? So on your quiz on next Monday, that's going to be like some of the questions. I'll explain an experiment like this and ask you to tell me what's the independent variable, what's the dependent variable, and so on. Okay? Any questions about that? Good job. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about observations and inferences. Now we already defined these words last week, but let's just review again. Observation. Observations are information that you gather using your senses or using tools. Okay? And we split our we split our observations into two different categories: quantitative and qualitative observations. Quantitative observations. What can you tell me, Haley, about them? Looks like quantity, and quantitative observations always have what with them? A number. They're numerical. Often we would use a tool like a ruler or a balance or a graduated cylinder to measure something and get an actual number. That's a quantitative observation. It has a number with it. You know, for example, if I say Mr. Arcuri weighs 120 kilograms, you must know the metric system here. Then that is a quantitative observation. All right, so quantitative have a number with them. Then what about qualitative? Qualitative, Brianna?
It's like quality, not measured.
It's like quality, it's not measured, it's just like a description. It's a description, like saying the lightning is bright. That doesn't have a number with it, I didn't measure it, I'm just saying lightning is bright. It's just a general description. CJ?
Those ones who don't know metric system, how much is that?
Excuse me?
Those ones who don't know metric system, how much is that?
It's about 2.2 pounds per kilogram.
English,
So-
please.
So 250.
I have studied mathematics all this. Yeah, so you guys.
Well, you'd be shunned from the.
I'm just not gonna make anything.
Like, I was thinking they were doing the ball experiment to see if, like, what would work. You should have made it 225.
All right, so let's so then the last thing. So with observations, things we sense or things we measure, but then inferences. Inferences are conclusions we make or assumptions based on what we see, based on our observations. So an observation is something you directly can see or measure. An inference is sort of a conclusion you come to based on your observations. So write that one down. So for an example of an inference, if you walk out of the movie theater and the ground is all wet, what inference would you make? David? That it rained, that makes sense, right? Now, did you observe it raining?
No.
No. You were in the movie. But if you see the ground all wet, you might make that inference. And it may be true, maybe it's not. Maybe there's another reason the ground's all wet, but that would be a valid inference.
Maybe someone spilled soda.
Could be there's a fire and the fire truck put it out and enough water all over the ground and there's
Well, if there was a fire, we would not have that effect.
yeah. So anyway, an inference is an interpretation of what you observe. All right. So let's look at some examples of observations and inferences. Let's say you walked into the gym on Friday morning. The bleachers were cluttered with paper cups and food wrappers. The scoreboard was still lit up. Okay? It looks as though many people were here and you missed a great game. This is something that happened. So you tell me, these statements here, are they observation or inference? So what if I say there was a basketball game last night? Is that an observation or is that an inference? Yeah?
An observation.
Were you there to see it?
Well,
No. So did you observe the basketball game?
maybe.
You didn't. So what would it be?
Oh, I guess an inference.
It's an inference. It's based on the other observations. That's an inference. If you just want to write an I, that's okay. You don't have to write the whole word. It's up to you. All right, number 2, the scoreboard is lit up. Okay, what's that, Dan?
Observation.
That's an observation. You actually look up and you see there, the scoreboard is lit up. There were many people there.
Inference.
Raise your hand, please. Raise your hand, please. Tommy? That's an inference. Based on the observations, you may think that, but you didn't actually see the people there.
What if there were 6 people?
4, their paper cups are in the bleachers. Farhan? That's an observation. That's something you directly observe. Good. So observations you actually see or measure. Inferences are things you believe based on those observations. All right, now, this beautiful piece of art here.
Probably teachers.
What I would like you guys to do is look at this and make an observation and then use that to come up with an inference. Let me show you an example. So I observed there's smoke coming from the chimney. What inference might you make based on that? Chloe? That it's cold out? Okay. That might be one. What would be another inference? There's smoke coming from the chimney. Haley? What's that? They're cooking. What else? Hannah?
They're making sure they have like a fire.
They have a fire? Yes, all those are inferences. Okay? Now I can't actually see the fire inside of their house, but I can make that inference based on seeing the smoke. What I would like you guys to do now is look at it, make another observation about this picture, write it down on the left, and then make an inference that's based on that observation.
Do I have to do a problem or just one?
Excuse me?
Do I have to do a problem?
Do a few of them, yeah. We'll see. I'll stop you in a couple minutes because we're going to move on. But yeah, write a few.
There's a giant dot on the door. That's the door right now. Can I see that it's snowing? Can I see it's snowing through the whole thing?
Well, what's the observation? What do you see?
White.
Okay, that's the observation. Write it down. just gonna go here and hide it. We're gonna talk about that one next. Can you see the fire? Can you see? Yes. You can see the fire? But can you see the fire? See the smoke? All right, so let's talk about some of these. If you didn't fill them all in, that's okay. So let's get another one. Ava, what was your observation? Your second one.
The sun is behind it.
The sun is behind the hills. Okay, that's an observation, right? Anybody write that as an observation? Okay. What was your inference, Ava?
The sun is going down.
The sun is going down, the sun is setting. What might be another inference that you could also make from that same observation? Olivia?
The sun is
It
rising.
could be the sun is rising. We don't know, that's why it's an inference. But you can observe the sun behind the hills. Okay, good. Tanya, what was the one you had? For observation,
Clouds in the sky.
there's clouds in the sky. Anybody have that as an observation? No? Oh, okay, we got it. All right, what was your inference?
Going to rain.
It's going to rain. What did you have for Brianna for that one?
That's probably daytime.
Okay, okay. CJ?
I said different, but about the clouds. I said clouds are just forming, so that
Okay, the clouds are disformed, so it might rain. Good, those are observation inference. How about another observation that you have? Holly?
Windows are in different places on the house.
Okay, and what was your inference?
That there might be more than one story to the house.
Oh, I see. So yeah, maybe there's more than one story because there's sort of two levels of windows. Good one. Kristen?
There's no like people or like any commotion or anything.
Okay, so what's your inference?
That it's like calm or they don't have any neighbors.
Okay, so you don't see any people in the picture, so they may not have neighbors. Okay, CJ?
There's like a dot on the hill, so someone maybe forgot to mow.
There's a dot on the hill. Somebody forgot to mow. Haley?
There's lots of open land, so they might live in the summer.
Okay. Tommy, last one.
There's short trees.
There's short trees. What's your inference?
They might be growing.
Oh, maybe they're still growing. Okay, they're new trees. Good. Okay, so you guys get the point? Observation versus inference. All right, let's look at some pictures. Strange.
Shake upside down.
So, give me an observation. Israel?
Tank is on and it's upside down, or it crashed.
Well, first, what's the observation? It's upside down, or it's, I guess,
So tilted.
tilted down or whatever. So, what would your inference be? The tank crashed. I mean, you didn't see it crash, but that's a good inference. Bradley, what's another one? You have an observation? Or go ahead. Sorry. So the tank crashed. What was your inference going to be? Okay. Nate?
It was going down a steep hill.
It's going down a steep hill crash. Chloe?
Try to go up the hill.
It's trying to go up the hill and tilt it back. Okay. CJ?
The thing crashed. Oh wait, no. There's an ambulance in that place. There's someone right back there.
There's an ambulance in the background. Someone might got hurt. Yeah.
That was one.
Oh, there's, okay. Let's look at another picture of Mr. Arcurian then.
Which one's Mr. Arcurian?
That's up to you to decide. I don't want to make any judgments. So, give me an observation. Olivia? Mr. Arcurian is wearing a zebra skirt. Okay. What's your inference that goes along with that? Maybe he likes zebras. That might be a valid inference. How about another observation, Ava?
There's a line.
Well, you made an observation that's telling you that. What did you observe? Why did you think that person's a mind? What leaded you into that? So what do you observe? His face is all painted white. What's your inference? He's a mime. Okay? Because that's sort of how they typically dress and do their makeup or whatever. Okay? How about another one? Haley?
Okay, they're like dancing,
Okay, they're dancing.
and so they might be like an act for a circus because they're like throwing people up.
Okay, might be a circus act. Okay. One more. CJ?
Mr. Arcuri looks bad.
Okay. Mr. Arcuri looks mad. What's your inference?
Just gonna throw something on that happy little child.
Okay. All right.
Oh, don't
What's an
fuck
observation
Why is it all green?
here? Well, that's what we're trying to do, Israel. What's your observation, Israel?
That the folder is all green.
Polar bear is green fur. What would be your inference?
Maybe some kids in Antarctica paint sprayed on
Okay.
polar bear.
Maybe you got spray painted? Okay. Chloe, what's same observation? He doesn't look happy. What's your inference? People are painting him green. Okay. Bradley?
Maybe he has a disease.
Okay. An inference, he may have a disease that makes his fur turn green. Okay. Holly?
He's the polar bear's trying to get in between the two pieces of ice.
Okay.
And
Don't say he's gonna fall there.
no, I'm not gonna say
Go
that.
ahead, Holly.
And he's might be trying to get back to his family.
Okay. All right. Last one. Nicholas, can you give me an observation about this?
That big truck is obviously crushing the
Okay.
car with the load.
Big truck crushing the car below it. What would be an inference? Good job. What would be an inference to go along with that? You want to go, Nicholas? All right.
The inference could be if there's someone in the car that could get crushed or the car would explode.
Okay, somebody could have been injured. Good inference. Okay, can't see that, but based on what you see, may think so. Okay, Haley?
Mr. Mercury, the elephant is on the car.
Okay.
And people